I made a video about the Champions League, I think a day or two. I don't know. I'm in a food coma right now. I had Thanksgiving yesterday, and I ate. I believe the weight of my plate was the average weight of a 2-year-old child. I consumed all of it. I had sweet potato casserole. I had broccoli cheese casserole. I had cranberries. I had turkey. I had ham. I had mac and cheese. I had creamed corn. I had stuffing. I had the mashed potatoes that I myself made for this. I'm in charge of the mashed potatoes. If you ever need somebody to chef up some incredibly fattening American style mashed potatoes, I'm there. I had gravy. Oh, it was amazing. And then had pie for dessert. As a result, I feel like I'm in a fever dream. Maybe this is what people with diabetes feel like all the time. I don't know. I feel like I've given myself short-term diabetes. That's not a medical term. It's just my best diagnostic guess. I did my own research. Okay. Speaking of doing my own research, the Europa League and the Conference League, they played. Okay. And what would I be? Is a channel of some dude that sits here and talks about random shit if I didn't make a video about the fact that these guys played. All of them played. And the Conference League, honestly, is more interesting because the biggest takeaway for me, by far, is that going into Conference League match day 5, they only play 6. I don't know why. I don't know why. Everything about this is logical. The Champions League, they play 8. The Europa League, they play 8. And the Conference League, they play 6. I don't know why. Why the fuck is that the case? I don't know. If you play 8, you play 2 from each of the 4 pots, and that makes complete sense. It's more matches, right? That means more ACL and hamstrings and everything else. People falling apart at the seams, but damn it, I want to watch things. And, you know, they're eventually going to cut down on the number of matches, but they haven't done it yet. And so why do they only play 6? I don't know, but they're 4 in. And Vikingur Reykjavik is in 14th. That's a team from Iceland. They are directly ahead of Borac Banja Luka, a team from Bosnia and Herzegovina, who's directly ahead of Paphos, who's in 16th. Now, Paphos is from Cyprus. You've got boom, boom, boom. 3 nations that are basically never represented in European knockouts that are all of a sudden in position to be able to, I don't know, be represented in European knockouts. You want me to really blow your mind? Because, of course, that's what I'm here to do. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Europa League, but obviously I'm obsessed with the Conference League, so that's where we're starting. How about Shamrock Rovers? They just went on the road and drew Rapid Vienna, the Austrian league, 1-1. 55th minute goal after, letting up an early goal to Svetkovic. And that goal puts Shamrock Rovers in 10th. They're in 10th. 2 matches left to go. They are one of 6 teams that hasn't lost in their first 4 matches. The Kings of Ireland are balling out right now, and they're looking like they're going to be set for the knockouts. Even the top couple of teams, Rapid Vienna is in 4th. Jagiellonia of Poland, they're in 3rd. They've won 3 of their first 4 matches. They had a bit of a wild one this time around. 3-3 draw with Celje. They also missed a penalty in it. Behind 2-1, up 3-2, then boom, own goal, 80th minute. Celje is another one of those teams. They're in the top 24, and now we're looking at a team that's in the top 24 out of the Slovenian league. I realize this is a sentence that kind of only applies to me here, but one of those teams from Slovenia that normally you don't expect to be competitive at this level, well, they are competitive at this level now. And apparently getting the points off Jagiellonia, that's just part of the experience. The matchup of the day, though, in Conference League was Heidenheim hosting Chelsea. Chelsea ended up winning this 2-0. Heidenheim is, of course, the Luton town of Germany. They were in the 5th division not 15 years ago. They are now in the top flight. They made it all the way to European play. They've had the same coach forever, and he has struggled a little bit coping with Europe. I mean, obviously, he's never had to coach them through Europe before, and the league. I think Heidenheim's in 10th or 11th in the Bundesliga right now. They're not looking amazing. They are, however, still in solid position in the Conference League because they have 3 wins, and then obviously just this 1 loss at home against Chelsea, who's very clearly top of the pops. Legia is there as well. Legia is in number 2. That's Legia Warsaw, which would indicate to me that Poland is a slept-on league here. Because 2 of the top 3 teams in this freaking conference, Jagiellonia and Legia Warsaw have dropped a combined 2 points in their first 4 matches. That's not bad. right? Vittoria Guimaraes, Fiorentina, and then we have Olimpia Ljubljana. Olimpia Ljubljana, they beat Larn. They're actually bottom of the entire table. If you're wondering who's bottom of the worst of the 3 European competitions, it's Larne from Northern Ireland. But Olimpia Ljubljana is a team that I watched in person lose in the Faroe Islands 3-0. They lost 3-0 to Ka-Oi, the team that we made that, the Hidden Grounds about, the video series that we do on the main channel. 3-0. And they've bounced back this season to being a top 8 team in the Conference League group stage, this not being their most impressive win. I mean, obviously. And then Lugano from Switzerland. Another one of those teams that you're like, I've heard of them once in my life. They're not going to be able to do anything in Europe ever. Well, they beat Ghent, a team that you probably wouldn't have picked them to beat, because I know I wouldn't have picked them to beat. Nice early goal. Hang on to the win in Switzerland. But now to the teams that are struggling. You've got FC Copenhagen. They're down in 19th, and they needed a win. They played Dynamo Minsk. It was a bit of a weird match. They were dominant statistically, but possession-wise and everything. But they struggled to get goals, scored a penalty in the second half to end up taking it. This win takes them from 2 points to 5 points, puts them back into the knockouts, which for a while there, they weren't in at all. This is a team that made the Champions League knockouts last year. Now they're all the way in the Conference League. You would imagine in this tournament that Copenhagen is one of the teams that has a legitimate chance to win the entire thing. They just need to keep themselves alive. But an even bigger disappointment is Real Betis. They just played Mlada Boleslav and lost. This is a team from the Czech Republic. They had a 1-0 lead and then choked away 2 goals in 3 minutes to give it back, and Mlada Boleslav held on for the win. Real Betis is a team from La Liga. And if you are a team from a major 5 league, you should be getting to the knockouts in this every single time, no questions asked. Absolutely not. They have 2 matches left to avoid bottling this, but right now they're in the top 24 on goal difference, tied with teams like Celje, TSC from Serbia, FC Astana from Kazakhstan. Panathinaikos is here. They shouldn't be. Also, Noah from Armenia, a team that I made a video about earlier. They're in this group as well, kind of crumpled up around Real Betis. It would be a stunner if they didn't make it. They're not the only team from a major league, though, that is struggling. Başakşehir from the Turkish league is down on 2 points. Okay, they only got a draw against Petra Club from Moldova. They drew Copenhagen. They got flattened by Celje, and they lost to SK Rapid Vienna. So they've been completely buried. And 2 matches left. You're thinking maybe this Turkish team can get itself to the last, 24. Maybe not. They play Heidenheim and then Cercle Brugge, who are 2 of the better teams in this entire competition. You've got 2 teams that are in, I believe, the top 10. So there actually might be a team from a top 7 league, I would say, if you throw Turkey in there, that has a chance to not make it out and end up finishing behind a bunch of teams you never would have imagined in your wildest dreams were going to be here. But my gold star for the most surprising team would be Shamrock Rovers. You just don't see teams from Ireland perform like this in Europe, even in a competition like this. They play against Borac Banja Luka, the team from Bosnia and Herzegovina next, so it's a chance to pick up 3 more points for Shamrock Rovers. They could actually legitimately get themselves into the top 8, which feels very Football Manager-esque. But now up to the heavy-hitting one, the Europa League, where you're going to get teams that you've probably actually heard of. And that's where Porto, one of those teams, fumbled the bag again against Anderlecht. They're in legitimate trouble. They took a lead 1-0 in the first half. Then they got it drawn up. They scored in the 83rd minute, only for Anderlecht to come back and score in the 86th to pull out the draw at home. The result is that Porto is all the way down in 23rd, a team that expects itself to be able to handle something like a Europa League stage where 66% of teams make it to the next round, now has 3 matches left, because again, these guys play 8, to try and make it through. It was not comfortable for the English teams in this competition. Manchester United was at home against Arctic Circle side Bodo Glimt, and they actually went down 2-1 in the first half, thanks to Zinkernagel in the 23rd minute. Garnacho scored to open things, Højlund scored right before the half, and then right after the half to give Amorim his first European win with Manchester United, but it was a wildly uncomfortable one to keep United in the race for a top 8 spot. Then you had Tottenham against Roma. That's obviously a tough match, though I will say Roma's barely hanging on in the top 24 right now. They've been ugly ever since they fired Jose Mourinho. Things have not gone super well in Europe for them. Tottenham took the lead 2 separate times in the first half, so My boy Ange is smacking wallabies around. He's all upset about what happened. That they blew the lead. Basically, they blew the lead late. 91st minute. Mats Hummels, who had an interesting side story, by the way. Hummels was not getting played at all by the previous manager, to the point that it was, clearly disturbing how much the previous manager hated him. They get rid of that guy. Hummels comes in, scores an equalizing goal. That very well might be the difference between Roma going to the knockouts and not going to the knockouts. An update that feels related to the English teams is that FC Twente continues to be terrible. The team that drew Manchester United and had me sitting here screaming screaming's a strong word, recommending strongly that Erik ten Hag should be fired because you shouldn't be drawing a team like Twente. They lost 1-0 at home against Royal Union Saint-Gilloise, and that means FC Twente right now is sitting on the outside looking in. They're in 29th out of 36, and they have just 3 points on 3 different draws in this competition, including Erik ten Hag's Manchester United. There are 3 teams that are comfortable in this competition: Lazio, Athletic Bilbao, and Eintracht Frankfurt. Bilbao, Frankfurt, and Lazio all on 13 points, 4 wins, and a draw up to this point in the competition. They've been taking care of business against all the bad teams they've been playing against, although Lazio's draw was against Ludogorets from Bulgaria. That was in this match day, and even though they statistically had control over the match, that's definitely one that you should probably be winning. The rest of the top 8, Galatasaray, Anderlecht, Ajax, Lyon, and Rangers. Obviously, Celtic's been kind of up and down, but it looks like we might have a lot of Scottish teams in the knockouts because Hearts is in the top 24 in the Conference League as well. Rangers is looking at a top 8 finish. They're coming off an important win against Nice, who, by the way, as you can probably tell from this 4-1 scoreline, Nice is a steaming pile of ass. Really bad. I mean, you talk about clubs from major 5 leagues shouldn't be getting knocked out in these formats. In the Europa League, Nice is 35th out of 36. They have 2 points, 2 draws, -7 goal difference. Only team worse than them in this competition has been Dynamo Kiev, and they're in a war, right? Nice lost to Rangers, lost to Ferencváros, and got smacked by Lazio. They drew Sociedad, and guess who? They drew FC Twente, the team that has literally drawn everyone in the entire table, apparently. Just to give you an idea of how surprising that Ludogorets draw was for Lazio, they're down here, tied with Nice, and a team from Latvia called RFS. If you're tied from a Latvian team in a European League stage, you're probably doing something wrong, because Latvian teams just never even make it to this point. It's amazing what RFS is doing, and the fact that they're not clearly the worst club in this competition is mind-blowing. A couple of teams did get their first win. Maccabi Tel Aviv was able to win their first match. They were playing against, I believe it was Besiktas. It was Besiktas. It was it was the neutral site game. PAOK Thessaloniki also was able to pick up its first 3 points in a match against RFS to try and keep themselves alive. But you think about the level of the competition and the level of PAOK, they would be happy to get themselves to the knockouts in any way. Also, that Royal Union Saint-Gilloise win over FC Twente was RUSG's first win of this entire tournament. And so with 3 matches to go, they have slipped into 24th, just ahead of Hoffenheim. RB Leipzig in the Champions League, Hoffenheim in the Europa League, Heidenheim not even being top 8 in the Conference League. Bundesliga is looking a little weak in some spots based off these performances. Even though Michelin's lost its last 2 matches to FCSB from Romania and Eintracht Frankfurt in its last match, they're still in the top 24. And that's the same story for Bodo Glimt. But besides Anderlecht being unbeaten up in 5th, the biggest surprise to me has been FCSB, who's on 10 points from 5 matches. They obviously had that win over Michelin that I was talking about, but teams from Romania just haven't made pretty serious runs in these sorts of tournaments. This is the Europa League, for crying out loud. They're tied on points with Tottenham. They are ahead of Manchester United on points with 3 matches to go. Just a fun team to keep track of. They drew their last match with Olympiacos, who's also hanging out in the top 24 right now. But give some love to Ferencváros from Hungary and Victoria Pilsen from Czech Republic that are both very comfortably top 24, and with a win or 2 could find themselves in the top 8. Even though Victoria Pilsen, don't sleep on those dudes, they did really well in Europe last time. They have the exact same record as Manchester United, 2 wins and 3 draws. But out of all 3 European competitions, the team that I think is the most surprising to me is Nice. Because RB Leipzig has been so bad in the Champions League, but at least it's the Champions League. Nice doesn't have a win in the Europa League stage. Their next match is against Royal Union Saint-Gilloise, and if they can't win that one, they don't deserve to be in the top 24. honestly. But European matches happened, and that's what I think of them. I guess that's how this works.